Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's College League of Legends. We're here in our semifinals of the losers bracket, or the lower bracket, and I'm Mad Magical, joined in by Sherv and Shibby as we get ready for some exciting gameplay today because we have quite the story to tell everybody. But before we do so, Sherv, why don't you say hello to everyone and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name's Sherv. Very passionate about collegiate and amateur League of Legends as a whole. Formerly used to work with Arizona State, finishing top 16, I believe, a couple times. Currently working with LSU, so that was awesome. But yeah, super excited to see both these teams play. Know a lot of these players individually, have history with some of the players, so going to be fun to see how they perform, and want to make sure that, we're here for a banger series, so let's make sure that happens.
Exactly. And Chibi, it's good having you in here as well, getting ready for such an exciting matchup here between Northwood University and St. Louis University. One of these teams was expected, one of these teams was not. So why don't you briefly give us a rundown on these two teams before we really dive into it?
I mean, a lot of it has been said during both of their runs right now. I think Northwood, the true underdog story of CLOL this year, right? ISO and RBM's last dance. You've got this team leveling up through the bracket. But on the flip side, you've got St. Louis University, who took a stumble early on, but have arguably been going on one of the best losers brackets run we've seen. Although double elim is new to CLOL, it has already brought a ton of excitement, and these two forces are finally coming in on a collision course today.
And as you mentioned, the bracket, I think it's only appropriate to look at that and see the story that has been told so far from these teams. Because like you said, SLU, this was a team that was already touted as being one of the top. Everyone's like, this is a top 4 team easily. Of course, we are in the top 4 now, but they got knocked down into the lowers bracket pretty early on with a really big 3-0 from UST, the reigning champions, knocking them down to the lower bracket, but they have been making a terror as they move their way up.
Yeah, I mean, going against Ole Miss, then Winthrop, they've really just been climbing the proverbial ladder. And honestly, I don't think anybody expected them to face off at loser semis against Northwood, but we're here. And now I would argue maybe one of their biggest challenges, because Northwood's momentum is on the rise. It is in full swing. I'm on the hype train.
I mean, they 3-0'd Ole Miss, a big upset there.
Yep.
Now they're facing up against a team that we already had pegged as one of these top teams. So, sure, looking at this, looking at Northwood, how has the journey been for you just watching this?
Well, ultimately, we're coming down to the trend of one final test, right? When we're looking at that, Northwood has been acing every single one that comes their way. 3-0 over St. Clair in the lower bracket round, 3-0 over Fisher College in the lower round as well, coming up against probably their biggest challenge in this lower bracket so far with SLU. And ultimately, if you look at SLU, right, if you look at their bracket, I think if you tell them kind of, hey, this is where you get to, but here's how you got there, I think they'd be relatively okay with it, right? Obviously, no one likes to lose, and in the fashion that they did, but if you look at UST, they are one of the top 4 teams for a reason, right? So
Right.
Unfortunately, one of those kind of big 5 or big 6 had to fall, and SLU just happened to be the team that didn't play the best that day. So ultimately, we're in for a pretty big matchup. So there's a lot to talk about. I'll let you guys kind of continue on. So, but it's been amazing to watch Northwood. RBM kind of, one final ride. ISO, one final ride is really exciting to watch.
Yeah, and speaking of like what we have going on today, we've been teasing it a little bit, talking about it a bit. Northwood University, St. Louis University, now facing off in the lower semifinals. One team will move on, one team will be knocked out. It just depends on which team is going to face off against UST, the reigning champions, the back-to-back champions from last year, the year before, trying to get their 3rd one in a row, while Maryville has already guaranteed themselves a spot in the grand finals. They're already on their way to Boise. So we got to figure out who is going to join them. So when we look at today's schedule, I'm really excited about this because I love an upset story. I love the underdog. I'm so hyped for that. But we also have to hype up the whole broadcast here. Salty Runback Pod, they've been doing a great job of making sure that we can bring this collegiate action to everybody. And if it's also been brought to you by a lot of you out there. People have been supporting through the GoFundMe, as well as our sponsors. Shout out to Ole Miss. Shout out to Gen G for helping bring this broadcast to everyone's screens.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'm so happy to be a part of this. I wish I could have been with it sooner. I've been super busy, but it's just something that I've really been, supporting online, doing all that stuff. And I just want to, special shout out to Grapes and Hawk for putting all this together, all the talent that have been on before us. I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of some giants here, some really good high level casters, and I just kind of want to bring it home for everybody in these loser semis. Magical, Sherv, I think we're going to in for a very good time.
Me too, but without Yanni here, is it actually going to go to 5 games? Probably not. I mean, he has been the reverse sweep king so far of collegiate, but we'll have to see how these two teams face off against one another because there's a lot of pressure for both sides. This is the do or die. It's been double elimination in the top 8, but now they're facing elimination, and only one team will make it out. As you talked about, SLU have been the lower bracket kings. They have been making the run through it all, and they had really stiff competition in order to get to this point in the first place, Sherv.
Absolutely. When you look at it on paper, right, the whole their whole way and their whole road to getting to where they are now, it's gone through some very formidable opponents. And I do apologize, the 3-0s were not they were different results, so I'll take that one on the chin there. But Fisher College, you look at them, very strong team. They were very competitive last year, very competitive again this year. And when you look at where they needed to go and who they need to get through, very, very competent opponents. And ultimately, when you look at their run, it's been inspirational, right? Especially how much everyone likes to talk on social media. And ultimately, the roads are going to collide here, right? It's whoever wins this one here gets their opportunity for to be able to make it to the college championship. SLU trying to redeem themselves potentially against UST beating Northwood. Northwood continuing to pass the test, continuing to be the Cinderella story of this tournament.
I like how both teams have the detour there. Facing off against UST. Just kind of both taking that little quick detour. This graphic's amazing. I love this one, Shibby.
Yeah, and I love how, they have some similar paths as well, right? Stopping by Ole Miss, doing the run, beating both of them. Sorry, Ole Miss. They feel like they've been the punching bag of CLOL for a little bit, but that detour, both teams probably learning a lot from that match that they played. And I love how they're on a collision course to Boise. Both of these roads, if you're to take it on a road trip, man, I wouldn't want to do either of these, right? I think the stop in UCSD, very nice, a lot of good food. But other than that, this is a tough road trip.
It really is. I mean, going all over the place, too. Really taking the tour. But they got to face off now. Only one of these teams will move forward to face off against UST and have to go back for the detour. So they'll have to double back, getting over to UST before going back up to Boise if they actually want to take that one. And looking at that team that's got to do so, or one of the teams that potentially has to do so, is the Cinderella story. Northwood University. Let's take a look at this roster because you have two of my favorite players, Izo, RBM. I have been casting both these players since they first started playing competitively. RBM especially, back when he was on Michigan State University. This guy is amazing. I'm so happy to see him, and this being their last show, the last rodeo of collegiate, makes it even more exciting to see them get into the top 4 here, Shibby.
I mean, what a story, right? These guys turning back the clock, essentially, right? Mechanically. I think RBM really has been the catalyst for this underdog run. The ability to take the reins for the team, the trust that the rest of Northwood has in this guy to perform on champions like the Kindred, like the Karthus, as well as playing the standard stuff like the Vi and all these other meta picks. I mean, RBM has just been a threat in the jungle. He's been able to hold his own against NACL level players. Let's be honest.
It really has. He's been really showing up. And I got to say, this is probably one of the best performances we've seen from RBM in, I think, his entire career. And he has been a player that I've always loved watching because he'll play the crazy things. You were talking about that. But he also loves his Kha'Zix. I'm hoping that maybe if Northwood gets ahead in this series, they might bust it out and go for something really spicy in this one. But just all in all, great things from Really Big Mean. More like Really Big Man's in this and how he's been playing in this entire collegiate tournament to really show up in the last rodeo here, Sherv.
Absolutely. He's been making big play after big play after big play. And ultimately, people forget really, really quickly, RBM was one of the best junglers in the amateur scene. So going against NACL type competition shouldn't be new for him. It's something where he's going to be able to take a leadership role on this team, before having him playing, those more tank and style junglers, engage style junglers. He's like, you know what? I'm going to whip out the carries. I'm going to whip out the Kindred. It's my time to shine. And that's what you need from the leadership on your team when people might be a little bit nervous. Hey, just look to RBM and he'll lead the charge.
I mean, they have some leadership also in the bot lane with Clyde. We can get into that story in a little bit, but I want to focus on what they have to face off against today, because this is a monumental task. They are facing off against SLU, and this is no just slouch of a team. They have 4 players that played back in the spring of NACL this year. They have 5 players that have played in the Challengers and Academy circuit when you add in SkyTech, one of which we could even talk about being potentially an LCS-ready player in Surdy. This is a stacked roster here, Sherv.
Absolutely. And if you look at this roster as a whole, 4 of them competed in the NACL. Surdy with FlyQuest, Winnie, Darkwings, and Aaron, all with wild cards. SkyTech could have easily competed at that level as well. So if you look at this team as a whole, again, looking to the junglers, looking at Winnie, right? He's been here before. He's the one who's played at this high level of collegiate, but you can't discount how much Surdy and Darkwings bring as stable solo laners, especially being able to relieve the pressure off of the bot lane, being like, you know what, I can just lane check, I can just hands check my opponent, and you know what, there's not a lot of teams that have been able to match them on that.
No, and especially the top side of the matchup is where I think we'll see a lot of action. We already highlighted RBM and how this player has been really popping off, looking great. But Surdy has been a huge carry for a lot of teams he has been a part. It's funny actually seeing SkyTech and Surdy both wear their EG uniforms in this picture, because they did play together back on Evil Genius's Academy in the past. So they have a little bit of synergy. And Surdy is a player that wants to dominate his lane. He wants to get ahead, snowball out of control. I mean, we could talk about his Camille for Taze. It has been absolutely nuts there, Shibby.
Yeah, we can talk about his Camille. We may not want to talk about his Vayne, but realistically, we can talk about Slew's team fighting prowess, who I think have been one of the best team fighting teams in CLOL, right? Like the way they're just able to team fight around the map, the way they're able to play together, the space that Surdy creates on the tanks. I mean, Winnie as well, his ability to engage kind of on a snap decision. It's always been very, very impressive. And the backbone or the carry threat of this team is Aaron, right? He's such a good, clean team fight kind of carry orientated AD carry player, and the stuff on the Jinx, the Varus. I mean, if Smolder was meta, he'd be playing that. I feel like this team just functions so well as a 5-man unit. Even if they're down 4v5 or they're down in gold, like in this clip against USD, they are somehow still winning these fights. And so that's going to be the tough task for Northwood, because they're a very good team as well. They have a lot of trust in RBM, but is Slew's team fighting prowess just that much better than the rest of the competition?
And we'll really have to see when it comes to how they play in this game, especially around these ADCs. You hit on that a little bit there, Shibby. The fact that Aaron has been really stepping up in this bot lane, but so has Enthralled. Both of these marksman players have been doing a fantastic job. Like, look at the stats so far from these ones, Shibby.
I know, and it's crazy because you look at kind of the champions band against them, the champions they play. The way I want to contrast it is that
I like how Jinx is on there twice for Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, he just plays it so much, right? Enthralled to me is just a younger version of Aaron, and that's no slight to either of these guys, but the fact that Enthralled right now making a big run on this underdog team for Northwood kind of contrasts to Aaron when he was on that GVU roster so long ago, right? And now Aaron has come into his own as a player, has played in the NACL, has been dominating bot lanes, has beaten the likes of Shogo, is now looking to beat the likes of Enthralled and Clyde, former champion, right? I think these two players fundamentally fulfill the same role, and it's just who's going to end up showing up on the day, like you mentioned, Magical. Who is the better AD carry today, and who can carry their team to a victory?
And that's where it kind of leads us into our predictions, because who can really say that at the beginning of the day? You don't know how these teams will show up, because it's all about the performance today. It's not about yesterday. It's not about tomorrow. You got to play well today. So let's look at our predictions that we have going into this series, because I know that I have one that might be a little spicy, even though I keep memeing the fact that I think it's going to be a 3-0 because Yanni's not here. I'm rooting for the 3-2. I think that we're going to get to Silver Scrapes today, as long as Northwood could really show up. And honestly, I love a good underdog story. I would love to see Northwood prove us wrong, because we have everyone. And usually when you have the broadcast talent all saying the same thing, that's when it's going to be the opposite. So, Sheriff, are you still confident in your pick?
Absolutely, and I think that when it comes down to it, ultimately sometimes the Cinderella story ends a little bit earlier than we want, and I think that that's what might happen here, as Shibi alluded to earlier. Enthralled kind of being that 2 years ago Aaron, gaining this experience now rather than coming into being fully developed as a player, someone like Aaron is. And I think that that's where a lot of the difference might show. Enthralled, an amazing player in his own right. He does have Clyde as a very veteran support that is there to be able to guide him through that. But ultimately, I think that the top side of SLU is just way too strong to deal with for Northwood. But ultimately, I think it does come down to a 3-1 for SLU.
All right. And Chibi, how about you? You feeling confident in your pick still?
So this is what I did. I believe in Northwood so much. I've pretty much been, I think, 100% on my predictions, although I haven't been predicting since all of CLOL because I didn't know I was allowed to participate. I'm trying to do the reverse curse. I'm voting SLU so that Northwood wins. That throw statistics, throw analytics out the window. I'm trying to reverse curse them.
When you say that, that means you're reversing the reverse curse. So now it's going to be normal. So SLU is going to win. That's how it works, Chibi.
Is that how it works?
You can't say it out loud.
Wait.
Yeah, you can't say it out loud.
It's almost 1-1-1. I can make a wish soon. I think so. I'll don't worry. I won't tell you guys what that one is. I'm trying to reverse curse them.
I don't know. But we are getting everyone's broadcast picks here, and it's everyone but Quacks. Quacks, the one person saying Northwood. So if Northwood wins, we have to make sure we all go to Twitter and flame everyone but Quacks. Quacks gets the honorific in this title for talent predictions.
100% agree. And I think it's hard, right? Because I think everybody expects the Cinderella run to end. Everybody expects the pumpkin, the shoe to not fit, whatever you want to call it. SLU is a roster that is considered top 3, top 4 program in the nation. And although they stumbled early on, this is a team that they should take care of. This is a team that they should beat. It's an LCS level top laner, right? Let's set the record straight. Surdy was supposed to be an LCS. This guy was supposed to compete at Tier 1 region, Tier 1 play, and he's in CLOL right now doing a pit stop at best as we get into the draft.
Yeah, but Northwood have had the best upset story that we could possibly imagine of CLOL. And what a great ride for ISO and RBM on their final year playing in collegiate. They both said that after this, they're hanging it up. So getting not only top 4, but now potentially playing for top 3 against SLU. We get into the draft, and I want to see if they can continue that because, you know what, I'm going to change my answer here. I'm going to say if Northwood win this game, they win game 1, 3-0 Northwood. I'm going to change it right here on the spot. All right? I'm going to believe in the momentum because we get the draft here being taken away from Absurdity. I feel like that's not necessarily like I'm worried about that pick, just like a laugh pick there from RBM and from ISO saying, yeah, no, we don't want to deal with that just because it's funny.
Yeah, I think, realistically, a lot of ISO's champions, the Sejuani, the Maokai, even the Urgot, if he's going to bring it out. We saw the Nautilus top last week. Shout out to ISO for busting that out for me. I think all those champions, unfortunately, do not have a fun time in the vein. And I was really coming to question whether SLU would respect this Northwood roster, right? Whether they would give them some lenience here. They've banned out the Kindred. They've banned out the Nico. They are giving Northwood the full respect they deserve. So now Northwood has to show me something different, right? Reppy's been fantastic on this Nico. I think he's been really good on the Tilia. He had an amazing series last week as the Skarner does get removed. Magically, you're pointing to it. We talked about it yesterday. The Jinx is open.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Exactly. I'm like looking at this. The marksmen are what are open, enthralled, immediately locking that in. Sure, we've talked about this before when we look at Northwood and even look at Aaron, how important Jinx has been to so many teams in collegiate.
Especially on this patch, right? We're not on the mid-season patch quite yet, so we're on 13.9, and ultimately, these AD carries are going to be what drives the bus, right? We've talked about all the other rules, but unfortunately, like team fighting champions are going to, help you win the game, and it's great. Obviously, SLU is going to give that full respect to Northwood. Their coach Deos, incredibly respectful, knows the ins and outs of having this team, and wants to make sure that they're put in a position to win. The one thing that I was a little bit shocked about is if they didn't really care about the AD carry trade, maybe taking Talia early on the B1 might have been a little bit more have higher priority for Northwood, but ultimately there are different ways to punish it, so it's going to be interesting to see how that draft adapts from there.
I mean, I'm looking at this right now. The Tilia over for more than likely Darkwings could be for Winnie, but I was thinking there's the possibility of it being flexed into the jungle if they get Tristana. But Northwood read that so well, grabbing themselves that Tristana, now having that Nautilus. And the thing is, as you talked about, Shibi, this is really a flex pick for Northwood. It's not guaranteed for Clyde in the bot lane.
It is not guaranteed for Clyde, and if you're able to catch on social media, I believe the RSSA did an interview with Clyde, and like, what's his most hated champion? I'm pretty sure he wrote that down as Nautilus here, as we do get Vi locked in for winning, so there's going to be a Talia-Vi combo here, but the double 80 carry composition from Northwood has found them success. Yeah, they've been doing it traditionally with Enthralled and RBM on the Kindred, but it's still something they're familiar with, but this screams to be that Northwood typically either they're going to run an AP top laner or they're going to throw Cassante up there, because that's where you see these double 80 carry compositions with like 0 magic damage do work.
And there's the Vi locked in for SLU here, and that is a flex pick too. That is a SkyTech special as a support player. That's why I was getting so excited, because both teams kind of busting out some things that they can flex around, really catch teams off guard. Depends whether or not they want to fully commit. And we're seeing these AP junglers banned away by SLU, not wanting to have that for RBM, because having a Lilia on this team would do exactly as you were talking about, Shibby, kind of fix that hole that they're missing. They need to have that AP damage source, and no longer can they get that from Karthus nor Lilia. So Sherv, we look at this draft so far. What are you expecting from Northwood, dependent on what SLU picks?
Oh, ultimately, they're pitching RBM's pool here with being able to ban 4 of the junglers, but it's going to be a little bit difficult, and it kind of sucks that we don't get to see the Vi support that is going to Winston, but ultimately, I think that they're still going to look for some form of AP jungle here, but it's going to be awkward to see where they're going to try and go with that because of the 2 main options being off the table.
Yeah, and grabbing the Maokai here, and that is something that could be flex still, could be for RBM. More than likely for Iso, we've seen them play that a lot top lane. But with Surtees Camille still being open, whoa! Could be risky here, but we get Brand. Okay, Shivy, talk to me.
I mean, just the de facto AP jungle pick after Karthus is out, after Lilia. It's really good with this composition as well. The guaranteed root coming out from Enthralled, or sorry, a Maokai, Iso on the Maokai most likely, is going to allow those bounces to come out from the Brand ultimate, right? That's the big thing. Can you get those bounces off? Can you get his passive going in a team fight? That's always the difficult thing to get going. But Twisted Advance, the ultimate from Maokai, the lockdown from the Nautilus. Oh, you're going to guarantee the stun plus the Blaze passive plus the ultimate. This is a very high damage composition coming out from Northwood. They've got 2 beefy boys in the Maokai and the Nautilus, but the Brand, Tristana, and Jinx coming in gives you so much damage that final pick does get locked in. It is going to be Jax for Surdy.
All right, so sure, before we let you go and get ready for our first game, what do you think of the draft? What team do you think has got it at the initial onset of this game?
I love Northwood's draft. I think that it's really awesome bringing the Brand later into the matchup there. And as Shibi was saying, as a team fight jungler and as a team fight oriented team, double 80 carry, you already have the double marksman comp, which is great. You have the main engaged threats being Iso, Maokai, signature champion, right? Busted out game 1. Even though Clyde hates Nautilus, he performs very well on it. So having that happen, or having that pick is super important. Yeah, clear engage, clear opportunities for this Brand to be able to pick apart. The only problem that I see is the lockdown that they could have onto Jinx from the Vi ultimate and from Jax coming in from swinging, kind of out of nowhere on a flag. So they will have to be cognizant of that, but I do think that Northwood do have the edge from draft here.
Ooh, all right. So I said that I was going to change my predictions if Northwood win this first game. So why don't we get into it, Surf? We'll see you on the other side, but me and Chibi will get us ready for game 1. It's the lower semifinals. Northwood University, St. Louis University, the best of 5. So they load up onto the rift, and it looks like everyone going for the line of scrimmage.
Magical. Northwood's cooking just a little bit in round or game 1 of this best of 5 here. And I like this, right? I hope they don't lose their creativity. I think the worst thing that we can see from teams is they get super creative, they get kind of wacky in the draft, and then they lose game 1. They're like, okay, guys, well, that didn't work. Let's just go back to our standard stuff. And they kind of just lose 3-0 here. I want to see Northwood keep cooking. I want to see them put the pan on their grill and throw in as many spices as you can. As SLU have gone for something a little bit more set standard, but this is what they excel at, right? I think the big thing that you mentioned, I think Sherv is that Surdy and Winnie are that lockdown duo, right? Whether it's RBM, Reppy, or Enthralled. I think the fact that Northwood have like essentially 3 damage threats, SLU has to be very careful of who they're dogpiling, because even if they just get that initial kill, there's so much, damage coming in after that, right? The counter punch from Northwood could just swing the fights in the favor, especially when you have Jinx who can get reset, who can get excited and just roll through these fights.
And I will say, SkyTech getting that ward kill, I mean, it's a meme to talk about ward kills, right? But at the same time, it really does help out when the support gets it, so you can try to get that level 2 a little bit earlier for both Aaron and SkyTech, especially with Enthralled Clyde playing something that isn't going to be too impactful when you lose out on that level 2. Nautilus needs to get that advantage over Renata, otherwise you're just going to get poked out, and every time you try to go for an engage, it's a handshake stun afterwards.
Yeah, it's really rough. Renata, probably one of the harder counters into Nautilus here, but Clyde's going to have usefulness later on into the game, right? Immobile, Aaron has to take the cleanse here. He just has to fear, as we do see the hook coming down. These guys are going to trade back and forth. I don't know if they win that.
Yeah, that's why I was worried. That's why I was worried exactly that. The double range up against his melee support. Though, Enthralled and Clyde still have enough of a force because the wave is slowly pushing, and they have a little bit of an advantage because they already were in the bot lane. It is going to make it so that they get the level 2 spike despite that ward kill going over to SkyTech. Well done from Enthralled and Clyde.
Yeah, really well played, and we see the jungle, matchup coming in right now. And I think the thing I want to know is that Winnie, paying attention, taking PTA on Vi here, right? Both time you see Conqueror or you see Halo Blades, PTA is actually really nice because you can get those 3 procs off very, very quickly.
Yep.
And that extra damage that you come in with that rune may help you secure that kill onto the AD carry, right? Onto potentially RBM here. So really
that's
nice.
what I was thinking. I was like, AD carry, no. RBM, yes.
Yeah, RBM might just end up getting invaded in his jungle, and he might have to, worry about, getting killed on his red buff or even on his second rotation here. So I like that from Winnie. But right now, I think that bot lane, I think the camera is perfect. Centering in on them, getting those early trades going. I think Enthralled really has to show why he's the young gun, why he has to be the carry for this team. Because if Aaron can handle him, if Aaron and SkyTech can get things going, we've seen them just take over games.
All right, here we go. Sorry about that. Just had a little bit of a technical issue, but we're back into the game. And with that level 2 spike, Clyde tries to get a little bit of damage out of SkyTech, but only minimal, as Enthralled actually took the beating in this bot lane. Got a lot put down him by Aaron, making sure that it was the ADC, the actual threat, is the one taking all the damage. As top lane, Surdy was pushed back into the turret range. Tries to get a little bit help there from the turret, but it is a Maokai versus Jax lane. We haven't seen one of these matchups in a long time, but this is typically how it works out. Maokai is just going to try to go in, go for a trade like that, back out, heal up with the passive once it's available, rinse and repeat.
There's nothing you can really do about it. If you're Surdy, right, you kind of just have to take the Bramble Smash, you have to take all that, and the thing is, you can't even walk up to hit turret. It's very, very hard because he can then twist it, advance, and then go in as Reppy.
Reppy's playing a little bit with fire. That's his second time going for the rocket jump forward onto Darkwings to get a little bit of damage back onto him. With RBM and Winnie kind of colliding here on this bottom quadrant of the river, it's interesting to see, because you were talking about that PTA for Winnie. RBM has actually been doing a good job. They attempted, they kind of hovered the pieces to look for a potential invade, but this bot lane is really where they try to put the tension onto with Winnie there. The flash away from Clyde, but he's got the Ignite on top of him. Tried to Spider-Man, but he couldn't get out of there. It's going to be first blood for Aaron, while RBM, scattered, has to go for a flash over the wall because he is locked in that pit, and he knew he was going to die otherwise.
Yeah, I'm very confused as to why Clyde went up there, right? We saw Vi in the river. That Scuttle Crab is not yours. RBM's nowhere close. It's a 3v2 at best, and 3v3 if RBM gets closest. Darkwings.
Has flash still. Oh, not landing the ball there. The ball flame that connects. Probably actually is a kill, but I think Darkwings was ready to flash just in case. He had that up the whole time, so he could have gotten out pretty easily.
Yeah, Clyde already protesting, says, I don't want Nautilus anymore, guys. I'm just going to walk in the river and see what happens. Realistically, a free kill gifted over. Aaron picks that up as well on the lethal tempo Varus. That's going to give him that on-hit power, that, ability to flex and trade in the lane very, very well here as he rushed that Zerker Greaves. RBM is on vision, but I don't think that's going to stop him.
Surdy, I think you're playing with fire here. Ward hop away, flash still there, counter strike, but they already got the Pillar of Flame to connect, waiting for the Q because they want to not get the flash away. That's going to be the flash, and then the Q. Pixels away.
And if it's just a little bit sooner, the passive goes off, and maybe that's a kill. Surdy does blow a lot, and Clyde's here in the mid lane.
Yeah, going for this play. Nice flash.
Nice.
Darkwing's not flashing before. Has it at the perfect time when he needs it, so he gets away, and that attempted play by Clyde, the rotation, not working out. That's 2 plays thwarted by SLU that were attempted by Northwood that have been working out for them in prior series against teams like Ole Miss.
Don't worry, they're just investing, right? It's an investment play. They're going to come back to mid lane. They're going to come back to top lane. The flashless solo laners, I'm sure, should be punished by RBM and company as Reppy.
Level 5 there, only level 5 for Winnie. if Cease and Desist is up, I think that they pull the trigger and probably get the kill onto Reppy, even with Flash and the rocket jump there. That's why Winnie kind of just saying, all right, fine. You can't get any damage onto this turret. I'm going to rotate into the bot lane, try to get a little bit of priority around the dragon, especially because RBM is on the top quadrant. I wouldn't be too surprised if we just see a trade of dragon for Grubs.
Yeah, and I would like that. I think the thing is, for Northwood, Grubs not super important, right? Maybe if you get Tristana into a side lane, she can do some work. Yeah, but I think denying it from Slew, specifically on the Jax, right? Surdy on the Jax, if they get 6 Grubs or 5 Grubs, it could be really, really annoying in the side lane here. So I think it's more important for Northwood to deny the Grubs and just trade the Dragon, especially because it's a Cloud Drake. You're more than happy trading it.
Yeah, but they're not really threatening that. We see that RBM fully cleared the top side with Clyde. Hex Flash over the wall to get back into the bot lane because Enthralled had been left on an island here, which allows them to maybe make a play around the dragon. But as we were talking about, we expected that Winnie and Slew were going to have the priority around this dragon. I want to see RBM on the top side of the map, so now they feel forced to look for this fight around the objective, landing the Pillar of Flame and the stun with a rocket jump in, but they're going to do the flash away. Barely Reppy surviving because he got exhausted, but has enough of distance. Does he, though? Waiting for the dash. That's going to be the seismic shove. Finding Reppy, getting the kill with a passive on his Skytech. Pull back in. Hail of Blades, doing a little bit of damage, but not enough. Enthralled, only level 5. No rocket available. Needs to get level 6. If they can get that off this wave, might be able to fish for a kill from long range. Well, Clyde still putting wards down and found out by Winnie and the rest of Slew. Dragged back in with a handshake and dies to the might of Aaron.
Clyde once again walking into a river that is not his. Reppy goes down early on. A nice shove from Darkwings, and that gets the kill here. We talked about, Northwood, how they like to team fight, but we didn't really talk about our RBM. He just hates giving up dragons, right? We've almost always seen him and his team contest these dragons, even when they have no business, no vision really down there. And this time it gets their team killed, as we did see RBM take down one of the Grubs. He's actually not going to go for all 3 here. He's just going to use it. Yeah, he got too low, and he's just going to use it as extra camp, right? He's just going to take the XP. He needs to hit level 6. He really wants level 6 right now.
If he doesn't have Pyroclasm, how is he supposed to help win these team fights, especially with how powerful Slew have been in those fights? You were talking about that earlier, Shibby. This has been the team that has the best prowess we've seen of any team when it comes to full front-to-back team fights, utilizing every member to the fullest, especially when you look at this top side of the map, Winnie and Surdy. And Surdy has pretty much been having a free lane. He has a decent CS lead over this Maokai, and it's Jax, who's going to only get stronger the later this game goes on.
Yeah, it's going to be rough to deal with him once he starts building, the Triforce, and he starts going into Sundered Sky, and he maybe picks up a Frozen Heart into this double AD carry team. He's going to be tough to deal with from Reppy and from Enthralled here. And they spotted out RBM on this Grub, so they can't even go for the trade onto Dragon here. He's going to go the 1-2 split, but he's going to want to get the next 3 so that they don't push in these side lanes, so that Surdy doesn't have dominance and get some of these plates early on.
Yeah, RBM has to be on point with those. If you give over 5 Grubs to Surdy, then he's just going to split push to win. Yeah. That's what we've seen from Surdy in the past, and a lot of wins back when he was on Evil Genius's Challenger/Academy. He would even just say, all right, we're not winning these fights. We're struggling. Split push. I've got this. I'm playing Jax. I'm playing Camille. I can take these turrets really quickly. Just don't die. Make sure they don't get this objective, and I'll end the game. So they can easily utilize that, especially when you have such a nice lead for Surdy so far in this top lane against Iso, because Maokai's never going to have any priority. Then you look at Winnie. Winnie and Aaron actually have 100% kill participation. Same with Skytech. All these plays have been really the catalyst of Winnie showing up into the bot lane, finding a pick onto Clyde, or finding that pick onto Reppy.
Yeah, and we didn't really mention it, but really Slew just has to play like a very stable game, right? Their game, and they'll win it as a... Reppy does get caught out here. His chunk.
Oh, Flash. That's Dredge line with the Zap connecting as well. Depth charge getting the knock up on the Skytech. They have the bailout onto Aaron, but he's going to get the damage. Trying to turn it around. He does survive. Finally gets killed off. This is going to be a cease and desist into the back line. Locking down Enthralled. No escape for you. Trying to get back towards the turret, but they go instead to RBM, realizing he's out of there. 1-for-1 trade. I'd favor that to Northwood.
That bailout bought just enough time for Winnie to come in. Both sums burned by Enthralled here. We do see Iso trading. I have a sneaking suspicion Winnie's going to come back here very soon in that bot side. Enthralled has no sums on a Jinx.
Yeah, and he already flashed away. He's got to get out of there. And we look at this top lane. Surdy didn't need any backup, but there's still the roots there from Iso, so it could be dangerous with Clyde hovering in the spot lane. Oh, but there's not the TP just yet for Reppy. It's a few seconds off, so they can't look for that pick onto Dark Wings like they would have wanted to.
Yeah, and it's really dangerous giving Surdy a free lane like this, right? He's just going to really be on point with his mechanics, having that CS lead 20 up now on Izo. And Izo, one of those characters is Clyde. Once again?
Clyde, no. Maybe it's like you said, he's just trying to tell the team, I don't want to play Nautilus anymore. Spider-Man, though, does get back towards the turret, but so much chase down to make sure it's a 4th death to Nautilus.
Talia's missing off the map. You have no clue where Dark Wings is.
Enthralled. Yeah, they spotted him out with that ward. They know that he's going all the way to the tier 2. No flash, no ghost. Hostile takeover, keeping him locked in place. He's trying to kite back, but the handshake's in. Get right back in this one. Get the kill over to Aaron again.
And that was a really good hostile takeover. Forces Enthralled to sit and attack his own minions so that he can get the handshake off. Really well played. And yeah, Clyde just kind of walking where he's not allowed, right? He's not supposed to be here. Right, he can't be in that river. He can't clear out pink wards in the enemy tri-bush. Talia's missing. We had no clue where Winnie was. Like, there's an easy re-hit for that bot side. A majority of these kills have been on Clyde, and they've just been abusing the fact that this guy gets too aggressive when clearing vision.
And now Aaron is 5-1 on Varus. Already has that Blade of the Ruin King completed, while Enthralled still only on components for the call in the inventory as well. Jinx, yeah, it's going to scale up really nicely into the game, but this is an on-hit Varus, where it's still capable because we still have lethal tempo on this patch. So he's still going to bring a lot to these fights, especially if they can get those resets for Varus. And I don't know what you could really do here as Northwood. With Varus being so far ahead, Aaron having shown up throughout this entire CLOL tournament, he is now way ahead of the curve, and that's someone that we weren't expecting to be this far. We expected him to do well, but just not this much.
Aaron might be in trouble, though. Let's see if they can get this off.
Skyjack's on the other side, has bailout if they need to, but no hostile takeover. Going to put the bailout down onto him with the passive, and the Rocket getting the kill. Rocket jump forward, Reppy helping the shutdown go to RBM, then the chase down, and Skyjack back towards his turret. Takes a lot of damage, but 4 strong. Another pick onto Clyde, getting a lot of damage, but that's the Nautilus. Not necessarily the target you want to look for. You want to look for Enthralled instead. That's why they're peeling back, allowing Clyde to escape, realizing that RBM still has enough damage with the help of Reppy and Enthralled, but the Dragon is up, and Slew want to see if they can cancel some of these recalls, get a better situation for themselves because they have a TP right behind. That's going to be Surdy. Weaver's wall, season assist onto RBM, but he's already used everything. He's going to be the first casualty. Reppy flashing away with a buster shot, keeping himself alive, but now Enthralled in a bad spot, trying to get rid of the wards, get a little bit of damage onto Skytech, but with Clyde so low, you can't really fight this. Surdy could easily look for this dive right now, waiting for Dark Wings to get the rotation. See, Clyde is pretty low. Going to throw a pebble at him, charge the Spider-Man away, but it's a 4v2 in the bot lane. Looking for Enthralled first. There's the damage gone. Handshake. Gifting over some gold to Surdy.
Oh, and they just hit the re-dive here, and Izo was hitting that top tower. Aaron might just hunt him down as Clyde protesting on the Nautilus now.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love that we get the least favorite champion is Nautilus, kind of showing why that is. And for Slew, that whole play, that's him a second dragon. They had Varus, Aaron, 2 level down ADC, nearly getting the solo kill onto Izo because you're a Maokai. You need the rest of your team. You're not going to do any damage, and you're not tanky enough that yet. You've been put behind from Surdy, so it's easy for Aaron, who already has that Blade of the Ruin King, to get right through that beefy boy.
And I love how Slew kept the bait on the line for Northwood, right? They were so enticing. They're like, wait, you might be able to get a kill here. We're still going to chase. I was expecting the TP to come out in 2 different scenarios, either matching Surdy on the Jax from Izo or when that re-dive was coming in, because that ultimate from Maokai could have spelled a lot of trouble for this team, but he doesn't do either. He keeps it for, I don't know when he's going to TP in, maybe potentially around a different team fight, maybe there's a flank ward. I feel like Izo is super conservative with his TPs, and he has been, as here it comes. Now.
Looking for the back line, looking for the root with the depth charge, connecting onto Winnie. Get rid of the smite, look for the fight. That's going to be the bailout, keeping him alive a little bit longer, but then finally topping him down, and now the flash away from Skytech, but look at Darkwing trying to get onto this back line, get a little bit of damage onto Enthralled and Reppy, but they have a perfect position there, utilizing the take, and now the resets as Darkwings doesn't have much place to go. It's a seismic shove away from the Maokai, but all the while, for Slew, Surdy is doing what Surdy does best, and he's going to topple some turrets.
Yeah, only 2 grubs to his name, but still, that's enough damage onto those turrets. He's going to pick up some nice solo plate gold. And we talked about it, right? Izo finally using his TP to get some, consolation prize kills because Slew was kind of invading a lot of that red side jungle for Northwood here, but they're still down quite a pretty penny, 4,000 gold as we flash over. And realistically, Northwood have the ability to lean back on these two 80 carries, Reppy and Enthralled, but if they fall too far behind, if Surdy starts building some tank stats, Winnie as well, they just won't be able to kind of tear through these frontliners of Slew, and Darkwings and Aaron, they're going to be able to rip through Izo and Clyde.
Well, especially when you look at this gold, right? It is, we see that it's a 4,500 gold lead for Slew at this point. Rocket body blocked by Skytech to deny that potential steal from Enthralled. And when you look at where the gold is, not just the fact that Slew has a gold lead, even after that fight where Northwood, it looked pretty nice, at least they're able to get some things, Darkwings and Aaron are still so far ahead of Reppy and Enthralled.
Yeah, Raphael does come down there. They're going to knock this tier 1 turret down. Let's see if Northwood
pull back in. That's a TP. It's going to be the flash away from RBM, throwing out the Pyroclasm with the charge coming in from Shelly, but they're turning their attention instead on the Winnie. No way to get out of this one. They do get the kill on Clyde, but Winnie's out of there too. Chain of Corruption connecting to Enthralled. They got to get them. They got to get the kill. The pull back in. Surdy's on him. There goes the Jinx. Out of the fight, and now RBM doing nothing there. He's actually bailing completely. Thought he was going to look for the play, and now another side to jump onto Reppy. Darkwing's on point with these. Even if the turret does get the kill for RBM onto Surdy, they should be able to topple the structure with how low these members are. Getting the stun, looking for the passive with the Pyro Flame. Actually might be able to get the kill onto Darkwings. RBM and Clyde turn it around, picking up the kills underneath the turret.
Ooh, really, really big kills coming out from RBM, but Darkwings on this Talia, man. Shoving Reppy like he shoves nerds into lockers. Magical, it is on point with this Talia. He's got his best champion here and has just been doing work.
Yeah, I mean, getting those kills, really setting up the rest of the team, though. They got a little over-ambitious in that play. RBM now 5-1, 9 stacks on the Dark Seal. And while Slew have been one of the best team-fighting teams that we've seen, I would say that Northwood has been the best skirmishing team, splitting up the fights, making these fights really awkward for a lot of teams that aren't ready for some of these flanks. And we see where a lot of that gold is now for Northwood. I'm going to be happy with a 5-1 jungle brand.
Oh yeah, very, very happy here. And picking up that Riley is going to help out so much, right? It slows down the Slew advance that they want to do, right? With Jax, with Vi, and allowing that passive to go off gives Enthralled and Reppy more time to free hit onto the front line here. So it's a really big pickup from Northwood, and they're slowly but surely creeping back up. It was like, what, 5.5, 6,000 gold they were down. Now it's only 4,000. If Slew continues to make some of these mistakes, this is the worst composition to make them against. A double 80 carry Northwood composition, giving free gold into their pockets. They'll eventually come back into the game, and if they can stall it out 35, 40 minutes potentially, this Northwood composition just rolls Slew completely.
It depends, though. You still have Talia, you have the on-hit Vars, you have Jax on your team. All of these are going to be great in the late-game team fights that can jump onto the spec line, the very susceptible Jinx and Brand. If there's no reset early on, if they can kill Enthralled first, Slew can take these fights pretty handedly. I think for Northwood, it's really how do you protect Enthralled? How do you protect RBM long enough so you can get those resets so you can start chasing down the backline of Aaron and Darkwings?
Yeah, that's what Maokai is supposed to do, right? That's what Izo on this pick needs to do. He throws out the ultimate, he throws the lockdown, right? Nautilus as well, really good peel as they're just going to start this dragon here. They've got the inside track, and they're going to pick up one Infernal for themselves. Whoa!
Oh, no. Izo taking a long trip, and it's going to be the roots thrown out, the pull back in onto Renata Gloss, but so much damage has been put down onto RBM, and they got rid of him. 2 are dead, re-engage onto the carries they need to. Reppy couldn't get over the wall, now stuck in the battle, will die. No resets for Northwood, no fight left in them, as Weaver's Wall not cutting off the retreat, but this high jump, making sure Enthralled does not escape.
And Darkwings playing that fight beautifully on the side of Slew there. You thought it might have been a pick from Northwood. Izo going directly into enemy territory. The ultimate was really good. It stopped up a couple members, but the burst that you mentioned coming out from Darkwings just completely deletes the rest of this team. And RBM wasn't even allowed to get his ultimate off here. Pyroclasm is available, but they're not going to make this Baron. Slew are going to pick this up. They're going to reset. They're going to cash the big checks in their pockets, and they're going to probably look for a 1-4 split.
Genji Baron buff over to St. Louis University, and now a commanding lead. 8,000, as we were talking about, had gotten up to about 5,000, went down to 4,000. Now it doubles to 8,000. And they have the Genji Baron buff. They have the pressure they can apply to Northwood in every one of the lanes. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they set up a 1-3-1. Having Talia on your team, once Weaver's Wall is there, her mobility that she can get when near the walls can get her right back into these fights so quickly, and it can make sure that Northwood have no avenues. They haven't gotten a single turret this game. Keep that in mind. As even though they find out Clyde, he has to Spider-Man away because they don't have that fight against SLU anymore.
This red buff is not yours, unfortunately, Northwood. You've got to concede this. And yeah, once that Weaver's Wall does come up, I suspect they'll throw Talia on the top side. But even then, the siege is Clyde.
Clyde. Okay, wait, enthralled underneath the turret, but with Surdy kind of pressuring and applying the damage onto the turret, having the minions there. Enthralled instead trying to clear them out the best he can. Make it so they can at least push back this onslaught first from SLU. The turret's down below 25%. There's the Weaver's Wall still there. 4 members in the bot lane, and Izo's mid. Could TP towards the turret, but if they can kill it fast enough with these minions starting to group up, or they can peel down for the tree, they want to chop down the forest instead, but not landing the boulder, not landing the rock. Instead, it's going to be the fire thrown out by RBM with a cease and desist, but they've already rotated. They're looking to get the kill immediately onto Winnie, and they've got resets. Even with the hustle takeover, it's a attack on Enthralled. Depth charge gets one. It's a 1-for-1 at the moment, but keep in mind that we're looking at Enthralled, and that's going to be the damage. Rocket thrown out, but Darkwing survives enough of a shield to make sure they still have the pressure mid lane. All the while, Surdy's been in the bot lane trying to end the game.
Oh
Diving
my!
underneath this inhibitor, takes out the carry. Surdy showing the might that he has from NACL to collegiate. This guy is unstoppable, and SLU look to take game 1.
They're going to look to end it here. Reppy, the lone Tristana standing. Let's see what he can do.
He can't do much there. There's not much hope. Game 1, SLU. This team, we touted as being one of the best here in collegiate. 5 of their players, all 5 of them, have played in Challenger / and Academy in the past, and they are looking good today. They are feasting well as they take game 1.
Just an absolute dominant performance from top to bottom. You can look at one member of SLU and be like, yeah, he played really well. Darkwings, really amazing on this Talia. Aaron, 8-3 scoreline on the Varus. But collectively, St. Louis University just came together and are playing at a level that I'm not sure Northwood can match just yet. They've got to tap into that underdog plot armor right now because SLU are firing on all cylinders, Magical.
Exactly, and SLU is a team that we have been hyping up for a long time, and this is the reason. Even if there's a couple of hiccups along the way, they showed how they can bounce back in those fights, find the proper targets, split, divide, and conquer that of Northwood University to take game 1. We're going to toss it to a quick break so we can get ready for our second game and bring back Sherv so we can do a little bit more analysis. Don't go anywhere.